Great, okay. Thanks everyone for coming along again. Thanks for the panelists as well for turning up. I'll try and introduce them all quickly in a moment. Firstly, thanks a lot to the sponsors, Free Agent accounting software. None of the guys are able to be here today, so I had to lug all their stuff from my office here. But they've also, you've got a lot of nice jelly beans as well, thanks to them. And also, of course, Gannon Solicitors, and there are three, I think, or four people, no, three, from Gannon Solicitors here. Anyone who's from Gannon, if you guys put your hands up at the front, has anyone got any law or tax related issues? Speak to these guys afterwards. I think one person does in particular, and they'll give us a brief intro in a moment. Filming, hopefully everyone's okay. Just to be filmed, camera might swivel around. I think there's some legal Data Protection Act or something where you have to get consent to be filmed. So that will be on the, I'll send it through Meetup, and it will be on my jonathanlee.net site, Twitter, etc. afterwards. Thanks to Giuliano for filming, because he's doing it at quite a cheap rate, so he's effectively one of the sponsors as well. Future events, next one's on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, if anyone's interested to learn more. And then after that we've got one on lessons from startup failures, and we're finding it a bit tricky to get someone who wants to keenly talk about that subject. So if anyone knows anyone who has been involved in somewhat of a disaster and would happily want to talk about mistakes, and hopefully now they're running something much more successful, then if you could put them in touch with me, that'd be great. At the end, please put all bottles at the back, because somebody has to tidy up at the end. It's meant to be me, so just keep all rubbish with you and chuck it in the bins at the back. And also, please use, you can't really see it, but there's a hashtag at the bottom called Monetising with an S, not a Z. If you can use that for, hopefully you're next to Wi-Fi, if you can tweet all these pearls of wisdom that are going to come from the panel, hopefully, then I can embed some of those tweets in a blog post about the event afterwards. Okay, well I think that's it from me. So ready to start, but I'll quickly, a few seconds from Craig from Gannon's, one of our great sponsors. Come on.
Good evening everybody. My name is Catherine, no it's not Catherine, I'm Craig Sharp. I do the marketing with Gannon's, we're a progressive, dynamic commercial law firm in London. Just on tonight's topic, monetising online content. At Gannon's we have really pushed the boat out of our online content. And just to give you an insight into the sort of the legal sector, I checked earlier today, and we have had year to date, from May 7th last year to May 7th this year, Gannon's has had 109,261 new visitors to our website, which is, to our minds, absolutely massive. We've had nearly 5,000 visitors to our contact page. And there's two other people I introduced in a second from Gannon's who will testify that we get a lot of work. So in terms of other sectors, I'm sure that all of you wouldn't be here unless you're interested in monetising, but from the legal sector viewpoint, it really matters. And just to sort of benchmark our own performance with other law firms, there's a company called Conscious Solutions, who are the biggest legal marketeers. We recently did a benchmarking survey, and they have over 150 law firms under management. They benchmarked 174 firms, and the average new visitors to their firms, who are widespread, wide cross-reference in terms of big firms and law firms, annually just over 20,000. So we're getting sort of nearly 6 times more. In terms of people here, we've got Helen and Stacey. You also have to give a quick wave there. And as I said, we are looking to collaborate, to speak to anybody who either wants legal advice, obviously, or interested in discussing with us ways that we can work together. So that's maybe another way in which we are perhaps different to a number of other law firms. So thanks for your time and enjoy the evening. Thank you very much.
Right, okay. Where do we start? So, those are great questions. Yeah, okay, well, is Sharon around? Is Sharon here? Do you remember what your question?
Yeah, I printed it out because I got nervous. Should I just ask?
Yeah, no, go for it. I thought that was a good one to kick things off.
So yeah, thinking about like from an international appeal standpoint, what is your top advice for UK-based or USA-based people who are trying to reach a global audience in the UK and USA? So, for example, what are the top or issues you might have faced with cultural or language issues, and how did you overcome them if you're trying to reach two marketplaces?
I'm happy to start with that one. I just introduce myself if you guys don't know. My name is Julie Falconer.
I forgot that.
I run a blog called A Lady in London, which is obviously about London and about travel all over the world. I also run some websites about travel all over the world, funny enough. But I have come across that issue a lot because my audience is fairly global. My blog's audience is split fairly evenly between the UK and the US, so I run into that quite a lot. There is the language issue. Do you spell British spelling? Do you spell American spelling? I started spelling with American spelling, so I've just kept that consistent throughout. On some of my websites, I started out with American spelling, but realized that through Google Analytics data that most of my readers were actually in the UK, so I switched over to British spelling halfway through. I've gone back and edited some of the old content, some of it I still have to get to. There's also issues of timing. I'm not sure what kind of content you're creating online, but publishing times, and especially with social media promotion, if your audience is split between here and there, you really want to think about what time you're going to publish that's a good time for both your readers here and your readers there, what time you want to promote on social media, again, so that everybody's awake at the same time and seeing it at the same time. So those are a few things. If you have anything more specific, I can happily answer that too. But
Yeah, just go down the line, I guess. To James, if you introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name's James. I'm the founder of a website called Student Beans. We reach around kind of 3 to 4 million visitors every month. And in terms of kind of context of the question, I think it's about just being relevant and engaging. And from an audience perspective, like we've chosen a niche from a student perspective, and a lot of our traffic, because a lot of our content has been UK focused. And then the second thing is, as we continue to look further abroad, we did an article, again this focus on the niche, but 101 reasons why you should live in London at least once. Does anyone in the room seen that?
Yes.
A few shouts, yes. A few hands up. So we what's that, sorry?
Sorry, no.
Is that okay? So it was, from getting a following engagement, and it got liked on Facebook 150,000 times within 10 days. And that's because it just spoke to anyone that had been to London and it resonated with them and it got engagement and following and sharing. And that was being true, I guess, to the audience and something that resonates, and then it doesn't matter where it comes from globally, but as an organisation, related back to monetization, what traffic's useful to you and where do you want to engage people is kind of start with the end in mind first, in my opinion. And that was definitely one of those things that spread beyond maybe what's beneficial for our organisation, but as we continue to globally expand, really, really useful for us to put us on the map as it were.
Hi, I'm Alex Aldridge. I'm the editor and founder of Legal Cheek. It's an interesting question. I suppose from my point of view, it's good if we have some content that is popular in the States. And I was working for a US site called Above the Law, which was effectively like the Legal Cheek of the UK. It's a very popular US blog. And in the early days, I'd try and get some stories that would be popular in the States. But as I tried to monetize it, I realised actually that was a hard sell. Now, this is law, and the legal profession is different in the UK than in the US, but so for me, I really have to focus my content on the UK, but obviously it depends what you're covering. I guess Paul might be similar for you.
Hi, Paul Staines. I run a Wikipedia Thoughts website, which is a popular politics site, probably the most popular. So we write about British politics, and I assume that the fact that we get 15% of our traffic from overseas is mainly due to expats and who are keeping in touch with what's going on in London. So we don't tailor anything. On the monetisation side, it's too complicated for us. We just handed over all our ad inventory to a US firm to monetise over there, and the rest of the world we just give Google ads on that, and it doesn't really make any serious money. Only one thing that was really funny is we found out we were the most popular site in English language in Phnom Penh, and we couldn't figure it out. And it turned out it was all British Embassy.
Okay, well, we'll go for a next question. Is Alistair Campbell in the audience? Does Alistair stand up? I'll ask on his behalf then. He's saying, what role did chance play in your success? So I guess, did you have any lucky breaks, or how important is persistence? Or do you just have to be quite clever with what your strategy is? If anyone wants to take the James?
Look, we've been going a long time. 9 years is a long time. I think there's lots of ways to monetize opportunities today that didn't exist 9 years ago. In terms of chance, I relate that to how many of you in the room, well, probably all of you remember dial-up internet. And when I started university in 2002, which showed my age now, but started, we were on dial-up in my halls. By the time I graduated, there were 6 of us on laptops with Wi-Fi. And so from an opportunity perspective, things changed, if you remember those days. And then it meant we were able to launch student beats back then, just because of that time against smartphones didn't exist. And we launched it the same way clearly they do now on the iPhone, etc. So things have changed, but I personally don't believe in luck. I believe in people taking opportunities when they're presented with things and making things happen. And the ways that we monetize as well, we originally were going door-to-door selling, so I'd knock on a lot of doors and be told no a lot. But then some people said yes, and we kept going. And I just think there's untold about the persistence. And you talk about failure, I happen to put myself forward to come back and speak about some of the failures along in the next few months, because it's not been easy. And a lot of people think overnight successes. I was speaking to someone else earlier about Vice earlier today. I don't know if anyone knows how long Vice has been going for, but it's a long time, and I think over 20 plus years. And a lot of people are talking about it, including myself now, but that's come from a lot of hard work and persistence and believing in something that you're doing. And I was speaking to someone else earlier, they said, where did it come from, this idea? And I was graduating, and I heard a message, imagine if you couldn't fail. And it really changed my perception of what we were trying to do, because a lot of people, I was 22, lots of people said, go and get a job, you're too young to set up a business, you don't know what you're doing. And I framed it, if I couldn't fail and was going to succeed, it had to work. And it inspired me to kind of go and set something up. And sitting 9 years later with a team of now over 40 people working full time from a business as well that didn't get funding, so we bootstrapped, is quite a unique story. So it's not about luck, it's a lot of hard work.
I definitely echo that sentiment. I think you can always kind of chalk things up to luck or right place, right time, or things like that. I think, like James, I started my business 7 or 8 years ago when there just wasn't as much competition, there weren't as many sites like mine out there weren't as many people doing what I was doing. So you could say that was luck, but it's absolutely still been, about consistency and hard work and putting in the time. You don't just have the luck of, starting at the right time and suddenly everything goes your way. You do get certain breaks every once in a while. When a couple years into my blog, I got into a syndication program with Lonely Planet, so all of my blog posts would show up on the relevant city and country pages of Lonely Planet's website. I got tons of traffic, people started seeing the blog pretty consistently. It was obviously associated with a very big, trusted brand, so that helped me, but that absolutely didn't make my success. It was still a lot of hard work. It was still me working, to promote the brand, to really grow the traffic, doing everything else that there was to do. So I think it's really something that you shouldn't be discouraged if you think you're entering a crowded marketplace, or that the market is already saturated. It's absolutely what you make of it. Either carve out a niche or just do it better than anyone else is doing.
I suppose I agree with that. You get your lucky moments, but for me, see, English only 3 years old, and I suppose it's the kind of culmination of me working as a journalist, largely writing about law for 7 years. So I was always building up to it, and so it wouldn't have worked if I hadn't kind of got it all in position. And you see a lot of sites that will start blogs and they kind of get a bit of a run on Twitter and then they fade away, and it's almost as if the people sometimes have started too early. But I suppose you started straight out of uni and just kept going. So there's different ways to do it, but I don't think it's that much about luck, but you do need those lucky breaks.
Persistence is everything, I didn't make any money for 2 years with the blog. Then I set up an advertising company because I wasn't making any money, and the advertising company really was breaking even for another 2 years, and you had to go to stick it out. And the fact was, it was pretty marginal when I started, but after 10 years this year, it's kind of pretty productive lifestyle now I have. I was, well, I'll take something that probably people don't know. Made my first million when I was about 33. What people don't tell you, they always tell you it's hard to make your first million. They don't tell you how bloody easy it is to lose it, because I was bankrupt 3 years later. And that was the best MBA experience I can give you, that making a million and losing it really fast is very good learning curve. But just persisting and keeping going is key to success.
Great. Move on to slide tech question, I guess, from AM Leo, who I guess is Anne-Marie, maybe. It's Anne-Marie, or AM. No. Anyway, I'll ask it. What type of technologies, in your experience, can help you generate income from online content, or the content you produce on your particular sites? Go on, Alex.
For me, it's been the phone and just calling people up, because there's a bunch of kind of apps and Google AdWords and all this sort of stuff, and I've dabbled in it, but I've made really nothing from that. And how it's been best for me is just calling up contacts, people I've known in my journalism career, and saying, do you want an ad here and there, and wheeler dealering, and knockbacks, and getting kind of good. But yeah, so in terms of the actual tech, I haven't had any luck, but you guys, any good?
I taught an entire class on monetizing online content last night, so I can speak for hours on this, but I really think the answer comes down to it depends what you're trying to do. What are you trying to monetize? Are you trying to monetize a website? Are you trying to monetize video? Are you trying to monetize something else entirely? So the technology can vary depending on what you're doing. It could be something as simple as Google AdSense or another online advertising program. It can be something as simple as social media. I get paid to tweet, pretty sweet, pretty simple. Technology is there for me. So it really is what you're doing, what your content is, and how much you've established yourself. And I think that can take a whole lot of different, it can manifest itself in a whole lot of different ways.
How many of you in the room have heard of skim links? A few people. So just from a tangible kind of point of view, skim links, from what I understand, it reverse engineers the links, so you can write about, say, washing machines, and then it will automatically, you put some code on the bottom of your site, it will automatically link them, so that you get paid every time someone would buy something from one of your links. So you don't need to worry about individually putting links per link, it just puts a bit of code on your site. So from a tangible tool that it monetizes certain content, and a lot of people kind of blogging, it's like a really, really great, hopefully from a tangible point of view. If you walk out here today, you could go online, sign up with them as a publisher, and use that immediately. Google Ad Exchange as well. Again, there are ways, in terms of turning things on, that you don't need millions of visitors to start off with. As you grow, and we then focus on a niche audience, as we have done, now a lot of advertisers come to us, which is fantastic. We work with everyone from Google to Red Bull and right through to your local curry house, and that's because we've grown an audience and developed something that really kind of adds value, and then we've got leverage kind of in the marketplace to kind of do that. But hopefully those two tangible tools, if you take those away, you should be able to start making money straight away.
I mean, you have to think about your audience. If you have a mass market audience, a general audience, you're going to get low rates. Most of the Daily Mail, they have a huge audience and they charge low rates and they grow you. For me, what's worked in politics was we thought about our audience. And at first, I made a mistake, which was, I thought, this audience is 2/3 male, affluent, educated. We should sell them car adverts, booze adverts, financial products adverts. And we went to city agency and said, this is our audience, it's called sort of Jeremy Clarkson audience, I think I sold. It's 23-year-old hipsters in one advertising agency. Bad move. And they just didn't buy into it. So then we rethought it, and really it's a political audience. So we had to create the market and go around all the lobbyists and all the political campaigns and say, have you heard of blogging? This is 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. And they were very wary of it all. It all seemed a bit of a wild west there. But now, I'm pleased to say, you go on any of our websites, and I own a firm that represents 30 political websites. There's ads from, well, the whole HS2, Heathrow Airport, Birmingham, what thing, to pay for my kids' education for a couple of years, because they argue amongst themselves. So Heathrow will spend a load of money advertising politicians. HS2 will spend a load of money advertising politicians, saying Heathrow's terrible. Gatwick will say, what about us? And, they're all trying to reach the political audience. So, of the 100,000 people who come to us, those advertisers are interested in the 5,000 people who run the country, in Whitehall, in Westminster politicians. The other 95,000 people who are interested in politics, they're not so bothered about. So it's about getting a very highly valuable niche and marrying the advertisers to that niche. So what you do is you take legal firms who clearly think there'll be companies they want to hire on your site, and you overcharge them. I overcharge politicians, political campaigns, because they know that they have to reach this audience, and we've got a monopoly in a very small niche.
Great. So how? I guess it's different depending on what your niche is. But what's your kind of minimum viable level of traffic and uniques or page views a month that you need to build up first before then being able to approach people and working out ways to get advertising or monetising your web property in whichever way would be best? I don't know if you've got any stories. Alex, you didn't start too long ago.
So LegalTeak is a niche site because it's aimed at the legal profession, and in the country there's about 200,000 lawyers, and there's a whole bunch of law students and paralegals. So the site's now getting 90,000 unique visitors a month. But yeah, at the beginning it was kind of getting about, it's hard to know when I'm going to look back, about 20,000 I suppose after about 6 months. It would have been kind of 15, 20,000. And I was also writing a column for the Guardian's the law section of the Guardian website at that point. So I kind of made my advertising sell a little bit easier because I had a bit of a profile in the market. And even though LegalTeak wasn't getting brilliant traffic, I could kind of they thought maybe it's worth a punt, So it was an easier sell. So people are weird about it. I mean, I have no idea about your experience, but operating in a niche market, people are kind of weird about uniques. It's not that, it's less important than you might actually think. They kind of buy your, maybe it's a bit of a cliche, but you tell them a story. So when you're trying to flog advertising, you're selling yourself. So you go along, and if you're kind of like this bright person who's really excited by what you're doing, they're not that bothered about the uniques, they'll gloss over it. I've always been 100% honest on the uniques, but I've always thought I could lie if I wanted to. I never have. But initially, I was always sending them my login details to Google Analytics because I thought they just won't believe me. And as the traffic went up, because remember this is just me in my flat, in my bedroom, just sitting there writing this blog, and psychologically that's a weird thing to do. As the traffic starts to increase and you get more and more popular, you sort of don't believe it yourself. Increasingly with Twitter, you have that kind of reinforcement. So anyway, I started to send them all my login details for my analytics, and no one ever checked. I'm not saying lie about it, don't do that, but it's not that important in a niche market.
I think most of what is important is what niche that you're in. Kind of piggybacking on that, if you are writing a website, running a blog, whatever it is that you're creating online, and there are 1,000 people in this world that care about what you're writing about, and all 1,000 of those people are reading your blog or reading your website, people will come to you immediately and pay to advertise, pay to reach those 1,000 people, because those are the 1,000 people that matter to them from an advertising perspective. However, if you are writing about something massive in a massively crowded market, for example, fashion or beauty or travel or finance, and you've only got 1,000 people reading your blog or site every month, you are not going to be in the same position. You're going to have to be a lot bigger before people are willing to spend the budget, because you've got so much competition and because there are people that reach a much, much larger audience of the same demographic. So it really, really all comes down to who your audience is, what your niche is. Again, it's not to say that you can't ever make it. It's not to say that you have to have millions of readers before you can get advertisers if you are in a crowded market. But it is to say that you need to be realistic about the kinds of traffic that you're getting and where your competition lies.
Yeah, I reinforce that as well. There's a great book. I don't know how many people have heard a book called The Icarus Deception by a guy Seth Godin. He's written a number of things, The Purple Cow and a few other things, but he talks about in terms of what art are you creating. So if you think like, if you go into a supermarket and you buy the ingredients for a cake, maybe it costs 30p a slice, and if you then buy the actual cake, it costs maybe £1 a slice. If you go to deli, it's £3 a slice. You go to a restaurant, it's £5 a slice. You go to Harrods, it's £12 a slice. But it's all the same. It's all the same ingredients. And the question is, from a value, from an artist's perspective, what value are you adding? What are you creating? And similarly, going back to the 1,000, someone asked the question, how many true fans do you need if you're going to be a band, to be a successful band or singer? And the answer again is 1,000 true fans. If you think about it, if you release a song, if they all buy it, if you put on a closed gig, 100 people turn up, you charge $200 or pounds for a ticket. It's not unreasonable if you're a true fan and you really value it. You can make sustainable living out of those kind of things. So I think it's from an adding value perspective, kind of what it is that you can do, and make a difference. What art are you going to create that hopefully you can add value? And similarly, if you've got something that is in fashion and you're promoting the latest Prada shoes as an example, and 500 of the 1,000 people are on your list go and buy those Prada shoes, Prada will pay for that. And even if it's in fashion, if you're adding value, but then what is it that you can do? There's a great, I saw them here, they've got investment recently, Starlect, which is an app that you could, like Tinder. How many people know Tinder in the room? So they've done basically Tinder for shoes. So if you don't like the shoes, you swipe left, like the shoes, you swipe right, and they're monetizing this now that you can then purchase the shoes that you like. And again, very innovative, it's taking us on a different angle, but I think they're doing really well. I think one was sometimes swiped over 10,000 shoes. So it's just, again, simplicity, an example, focusing on a niche and adding value, and you can make it work.
I'm just stunned by Tinder for shoes. Looking at my wife's cover, why didn't I think of that? I'll say so, all the places, I endorse everything everyone else has said. I'll tell you something slightly different. When I speak to journalism students, they're all like, how are we going to get into business? Newspapers are dying, and if you can't, how do you get established as a blog because you and your mum read it? And I started out having 60 hits a day, and especially when you check and see the record comment. I say to them as a thought experiment, set up a blog about auto windscreens. They all look like I'm mad. Car windscreens. Because nowadays people don't go to their pages when they smash their windscreen. They go to Google. Google ads. If you want to buy an ad to say replace window screens, it's highly expensive to bid for it. If you had a blog that was the most high-ranked blog about auto windscreens, and you differentiated reach and reach you can do on the internet, you will make a fortune, because that's a £500 million a year business. You'd be a very boring blog unless you're interested in windscreens, but you'll get all that Google traffic and you will make a fantastic living. Nobody's taking me up on that.
I was wondering, we've mentioned advertising a few times, but I don't know if each of you can give the audience sort of a rough idea of the breakdown of where the revenue comes from for your sites, and where the different areas that you generate income. Anyone wants to?
I'll give percentages. So I have two businesses. I have the website and the advertising business that I set up to get my wife off my back for wasting my time blogging and instead of going back to bond broking, which I didn't want to do. And the website has 4 people working on the editorial side now, and we have columns, which is quite lucrative, so that probably accounts for about a third of our income. Then the rest of it is advertising, and I guess the guys who work for me on that would also include all the other work they get. Harry Cole, who works for me for 5 years, is the associate editor of The Spectator, who's got a column in GQ. He's got all that out of being, work for a high-profile site. So if they look at their revenue stream from these TV appearances, media appearances, as part of their income. A lot of people go to blogging and they get relatively famous in their little niche, and they get a lot of work from it, not necessarily off the ads. Things like Google ads and Amazon ads, I remember when I tried them when I first started, I didn't make enough to cover my mobile phone bill. So that just doesn't work. I mean, it works very well for Google, but it doesn't work very well for everybody else.
Anyone else?
Yes, we've got 3 revenue streams. One is packages, so it's a mixture of sponsored content, ads, and events. Then there's pure banner ads, and then there's freelance work, which is a legacy from my work as a journalist. I'm still a journalist, but so it's about 50% from the packages, 25 and 25 between the banners and the freelance stuff.
There's a number of things that we've done and grown. The business model kind of ebbs and flowed. One of the biggest things we won was Digital Business of the Year actually in November, which is the National Business Awards. And we called the presentation we had to do to a panel of judges from .com to cookbook and beyond. And why? Because when we started the website, and from a revenue opportunity, we've launched something called the world's first online Freshers Fair. So if you think about it, Freshers, September, lots of brands buy into that time of year that they want to spend to engage with students across the country. But what we did was we took that online. So it's again repackaging ourselves and removing us potentially from the banner world in the ROI and what people are looking for, but actually being a bit creative. So again, what art are you creating? Since we launched that, there's been a number of copycats and people that have gone into market, but we're known for being the world's first online Freshers Fair, and really about kind of adding their value. So a brand can buy a virtual stand. It's a great work we did, for example, with Nando's. They gave a competition many years supply of Nando's. We said, who wants a year's supply of Nando's? Any hands? Sounds good. So that's what a lot of people thought. So that got shared a lot. Nando's as well, when they were going out across the country to their Freshers Fairs, they told people to go to freshersfields.com/Nando's, so they direct people back to us to reinforce their offline activity. And we've got over 150 brands or so working with us on that, and they brought packages and opportunities. We're going into our 3rd year for that. But it's really, really diverse, and it's also a very much consultative approach around asking brands, look, what do you want to achieve? What does success look like for you? Whether that be number of sales or traffic or registrations or competition entries or branding and how much traffic you want to receive. So we do a lot of branded content as well. So something for Kontiki, 7 types of traveller that you'll meet when you're travelling, and one of them is a Kontiki traveller, but the other 6 are different various types of people. Again, that gets shared, that gets liked, and the results are very, very tangible that we can then demonstrate and show for our advertisers. So it is very diverse as well, but it's growing and it's evolving, and it's the book deal as well. We've got a really interesting book deal from Orion, which is published to Harry Bikers. That was available in Sainsbury's, Waterstones, and Amazon. And again, from leveraging a brand that we created 9 years ago, but we were able to then go to have 3 publishers bid on a book for us and take it offline. And we meet an older generation as well. We show them the book. They go, oh, this is what you've been working on for 9 years. They don't quite understand online and websites and stuff. But it demonstrates as well the value that you can create around being focused on delivering and building and added value. And I should share as well, does anyone know Jim Collins' Picture Great? There's a really great book, which talks about a 25-year BHAG, so big, hairy, audacious goal, so very American. But our BHAG is to touch the lives of 100 million young people every day. So, we don't have investors, we're not trying to give a return in 2 or 3 years, but we're committed to helping young people to make a difference. And, when you go back to telling that story and that vision, and we're doing, 3-4 million visitors a month, that's very compelling to say, look, help us. And if we want to help students also, we run a campaign. We also push back and say if it doesn't work, it's about your campaign. Students are our customers, as it were. Young people, if we can add value and help them, then they're going to engage with you, and we want something to succeed, and that's also being very upfront and go, look, we're not going to promote something if it's not interesting or engaging or useful, and we say no to our own brands because it's not useful if it doesn't work, and then it's a lot harder work for us to pick those things up and not something people want to do as a brand. So it's varied, but it's adding value.
For mine, it's a mix as well. I think we all kind of have similar stories here, but for the blog, I monetize it with some with display ads, advertorial, sponsorship. So sponsorship kind of happens on and off the blog. I was sponsored by a live blogging app earlier this year, so I needed to use the app, write a blog post about it, do some social media around it. And then kind of similarly to other people, and I think this is really, really important for monetizing online content, is that you shouldn't just think inside the box. It's not just about how can I monetize the content that I have online, it's also how can I leverage the content that I have online to do other things. And so a lot of my income over the years has started to come off the blog in addition to on the blog. So I've started consultancy services because people kept coming to me asking me for help with social media or asking me to help them plan trips. So now I have a consultancy where I help businesses with social media and blogger outreach and digital strategy. And I also have a consultancy where I help people plan their trips. I do a lot of speaking and teaching and lecturing, which is another thing that came out of the blog. General Assembly, if anybody knows them, needed someone to teach a couple years ago, one afternoon about social media in travel. And a friend of a friend of a friend recommended me. I had never done anything like it before, but I said sure. I showed up, I taught, they loved it, and now for the last few years I've been teaching at least once or twice a month at General Assembly, all kinds of different classes. So again, when you think about online content, it's really important to think about how you can leverage both the content online and offline.
Are there any particular mistakes that any of you guys made that, or any directions you took that wasn't such a good idea looking back on? Yeah, you think
When it got going, I should emphasise at the beginning that it was very, very low traffic. It's very, very hard to keep going in that initial phase. It's very low traffic. But it got going, and I got tempted to make it really kind of trashy and salacious. And I got this great story about this top QC who was quite an old guy, he's like 76, and he left his wife, who's a reasonably well-known judge, for this paralegal who was 26, and great story. Now, I used an incorrect photo in the story, and I got sued. And it was a real wake-up call, actually. It was really unpleasant, the process of being sued for libel. I didn't have to go to court. I paid £2,500. But there was a point when I just didn't know how much the money was going to be. But this was a culmination of several months of just chasing traffic, writing anything, cutting corners I'd never dreamed of cutting when I was a journalist. Because I kind of fed myself this story that I was a blogger now and it was different and I could operate in a different way. And I kept getting these lawyers' letters and I was getting one a month. And well, there's surprisingly non-litigious lawyers. That's, but anyway, yes, so I was writing about lawyers, and the problem was not that they were going to sue me, because anyone would have sued me for publishing incorrect photos of them, but it was there a conservative audience, and I hadn't thought about it, and I was behaving as if they were like Mail or Sun readers. They're not. People were clicking on it, it was getting known, but it was just the site, because it was a bit weird, really, and it was kind of, publishing all these salacious stories in an industry that had never really seen that kind of approach. But then I realised I had to pull back a bit, and so now, I've taken on the first reporter 6 months ago, and it's really come on. And part of the reason is we're still doing the stories, but we're being very careful about how we frame them. So much more kind of gentle approach. We've realised that we're writing for kind of Guardian / Times readers. And that was a mistake, but you have things that are right at the time. It was right at the time to do that approach. It was the correct approach. It got notoriety, which is what we needed at the time. The tricky thing is figuring out when your approach has to change, and then it kind of moves you on to the next level. And so the mistakes aren't always that obvious.
Yeah, I kind of build on that. A few things in terms of mistakes we made. One is, on one hand, it's contradictory. You need to focus and decide what you're going after and what your focus is, so you know what to say no to. But then some of the things in the last few years have generated us money or done things that we've kind of ebbed and flowed. Like one of the things I remember, we used to have pop unders. Does anyone know what pop unders are? So when you open a website, you then close it, and there used to be then a banner behind the website. So it's kind of quite a subtle thing that you could monetize. And it was, at the time, we were making enough money to pay a salary for someone for a year just from that one item on the website, which is amazing. This is a good few years ago now. But we had a meeting with a credible publisher, and they just said, think about the user experience, think about what they feel when they close your website. And we went back from that meeting and we turned it off, and we told the provider that we're not going to work with you anymore. We're making those decisions. But at the time, we were like, oh, this money, and especially being bootstrapped and trying things, and like, oh, how can we make that decision to turn it off? But it was about, again, starting adding value to the user and not wanting to damage that experience and thinking, what's the line? The other thing is investing. It's amazing, we got convinced by a gig ticket company to do a comparison so they could integrate their service into our website, because we thought loads of students want tickets, but we ended up spending a huge amount of time and money integrating this whole service. And actually we took a step back to think how many tickets we would need to sell based on a commission of someone else's, whatever. I think we need to sell 20,000 tickets to realise the value of the cost. But there was no one in the business to question that or to stop us, and we just thought, yeah, let's do it. And then that business folded. So, we had then spent all this time integrating this one. So many people talk about APIs, work with our API, it's free, you just, integrate it and you can make some money from it. And it's just amazing, just from a growth perspective. We've now got a very clear plan. The next June 2016, so the next 2 years, we're looking to grow the team and recruitment. And so there are around 40 of us now. There should be over 120 employees within the organisation that come from organic growth, based on also saying no. And it's like the more powerful, like as we've grown as an organisation, the more we say no, the stronger we become, because we've got a focus and intent, really like adding value and re-engaging and engaging with our user base. So a few things in there. There was one other thing, just to relate it, was it's amazing there are some things you will try at some stage and they don't work, but then actually a couple of years later, if you try them again, they will work, because the audience changed, the times changed. And I remember actually with Facebook ads, this is again very, very early on, when it used to cost 9p or less, 3p per click, and it was the heyday almost if you were engaging, probably like Google AdWords as well, when it first, no one really knew what was going on. And we invested a bit in Facebook, and then they changed something, and we stopped using it for about 6 months. I remember being on holiday and just starting a campaign. Whilst the last day of my holiday, I logged in and thought, just try something. And something had changed for that month, and we got about 50,000 registrations or something, just on the back of doing very focused, engaged, targeted ads, which again you can't do today for the same price, before you all go rush out and try to do that. But again, the learning, had I not just tried on a whim to do that, we wouldn't have had that windfall of new users in that short time period, which would be very expensive and challenging. Again, now you couldn't do it, but we had done it 6 months earlier, we stopped and tried again. So I would question, do we look at things, maybe there's things have changed and the market's changed and there's opportunities, so don't be afraid of revisiting and trying.
One more thing I would add is one of the mistakes that I made a few years back was losing focus on my readers. I started writing the blog as a hobby originally about 7 years ago, and I turned it into a business about 5 years ago. And when I did, I started getting invited to a lot of things, free trips, dinners, all kinds of things. And I was so sort of wide-eyed and surprised that anybody was coming to me and paying my way to go to wherever in the world I was going, that I just started saying yes to everything because I just thought this was so amazing. But what I forgot is that some of the things I was saying yes to weren't all that interesting or relevant to my readers. And maybe I was thinking, hey, cool, I got a free trip to somewhere, but that trip wasn't incredibly relevant, or the things I was doing on that trip weren't things my readers were particularly interested in. And so I lost focus a little bit, and I started noticing a decrease in my traffic, and I started looking into why, and not only asking friends, but asking readers, asking other people for honest feedback, and people started telling me, look, you kind of lost the plot. You're saying yes to some things that just aren't that interesting to people, and it's sort of starting to look like you're just, taking anything that comes your way. And I thought, that's very fair feedback. And I started being a lot more picky about what I said yes to, and I saw that really change, and I saw my traffic pick back up. I saw my readers kind of coming back, or new readers being more loyal to the site. And so I really think that that's an important lesson that I learned, and that a lot of people do learn, is you really, really always should put your readers first. And even if it's something that you are interested in, if you don't think your readers would be interested in it, at least think twice about it.
My biggest mistake was to focus on the political market, which is a pretty low rent market. I shouldn't have done that. If I'd done it all over again, I'd have picked another business, because in this country, and I could say in America, the political spend probably in an election year to all parties would be less than 100 million, and the people lobbying and all that, it's probably a couple of 100 million altogether. Whereas if I was in cars, I'd be in a multi-billion-pound market. So I chose a crappy marketplace to go to, but I've had a hell of a lot of fun, and it's kind of you meet people. I've enjoyed it a lot, even though it isn't as lucrative as it should be. One thing I will say about listening to your readers: my readers, once you comment on the blog, and we have 500,000 comments a year, are mad, and they make the Daily Mail's commenters look like lightweights. If I wrote to make them happy, I would probably lose most of my readers. So be aware that people in some fields, the people below the lines, it's called, who write comments on websites, are the extremists. Left, right, centre, doesn't really matter, green, whatever. They are the extremists. If they're motivated to leave a comment because somebody else on the internet is wrong, don't take their advice on anything. If you're going to say, try and find out what your readers, send them a survey monkey survey. Actually, do it the proper way, or pay Newcomb to do it or something. People who leave comments are the worst they write for, because they will drive you in the most extreme direction.
I sort of meant to open up questions to the audience earlier, but we've still got a few minutes, I guess. So, my glasses back on. But who'd like to ask a question? Yeah, gentleman, T-shirt, first hand.
Yeah. Following on from what you're just saying, how do you all test that you're all on the right track, following what your heart was supposed to do originally?
Oh, that's a good question. Following my heart versus what my audience wants might sometimes be two different things, but I sort of use a few different methods of testing. One of them is just looking at analytics data in terms of what content is most popular, and kind of going with that as a test of what my audience likes. Piggybacking on the last comment, reader surveys are a really good idea too, because that actually allows your readers to tell you what they want, what they like, what they don't like, what they'd like to see you do, what they'd like to see you do more or less of. So those are always good ways as well. In terms of just, how do you know if you're following your heart? And that's something you just always have to be kind of checking in with yourself about. And the good thing is that sometimes what you want and what your readers want is the same thing. Sometimes it's not, and you have to make a decision, or you have to see what's best for you, for your business, for your readers.
I'm always checking social media, so Twitter is useful if you're growing, well on that. Facebook likes, traffic, and then once you get going, you just get a feeling, you have a feeling, it's a good story, it's not comments on the site as well.
Quickly, how much your blog, how much traffic actually comes from Twitter as opposed to repeat visitors or people from search, LinkedIn, Facebook?
A lot too. Often it's the most that come on through Facebook and Twitter. Search often trumps it too, but that's really how it's grown up, through Twitter and then increasingly now Facebook. I haven't spent any money on paying for kind of Google rankings, etc. Legal Cheek's not even listed in Google News, which it needs to be. Social media, it's incredible. The way you can build up something out of nothing through it, the way that didn't exist. I don't know how you did it before Twitter and Facebook. How did you get the site out there? How did a blogger get the site out there?
Something called
there was a thing called RSS, and everyone who was interested in reading blogs used to describe it as the orange kind of rainbow you see on the side of the blog still. People forget the oldest form of rich media content marketing called email. You know, it's a pretty good system. We send out every night a daily email. It goes to about 20,000 people. So that is for people. So 10% of our audience comes on the website, has the browser open all day, or comes to it 5-10 times a day. You know, absolute addicted junkies. And there's an element of the audience that comes once they're on the way home, or maybe checks in the morning, and will read maybe 2 days of that content. So we're all multi-channel now. Everyone's on Facebook, everyone's on Twitter. Got to be on Google Plus, giving that a go. You know. We've automated all that. I don't really get much return from Facebook because I feel that people see the headline and the picture on Facebook, and they don't bother to come to the site. So Mark Zuckerberg does very well out of it, and my advertisers don't get the hit. So I'm you're kind of tempted because you do get a few thousand people from Facebook, but who's making the money on that? You know, so we haven't figured out how to gain Facebook. But Twitter, I think, on a good day, probably is 10% of our traffic. And certainly that's where a lot of the action is in politics.
Yeah, just reinforce that. I mean, it's really from a data perspective and understanding and the analysis that you do and what works and what doesn't. And we've just been focused on starting with the user in mind, how we can add value, what can we do, and measuring it. And absolutely every single step of the way, you know, each month, each day, what articles we're putting, whether it be on Facebook or Twitter, and we've got around over 80,000 fans on Facebook now, over 26,000 or so followers on Twitter, which again with the youth market, Twitter's growing, but still Facebook is at the heart of it. We've got around 400,000 people on our email list every month, signing up between 40 to 50,000 new registered users. So there's a lot of kind of engagement and opportunity, but it's about following, adding value in data and just in measurement, and it speaks volumes, and then we focus on the things that work and stop doing the things that don't.
Jude, anything to...
Oh,
Yeah, yes.
A friend of mine runs a website called Popwitch, and she has been around for ages. The site was terrible. She's not interested in advertising. She has 350,000 people on that mailing list. She has a great lifestyle from charging people to put their ads in the email list. And she, I shouldn't speak behind her back, but she makes an absolute fortune from that mailing list compared to what she makes from banner advertising website. Do not underestimate the power of a mailing list.
Any more questions? Chap at the back, right at the back. Yeah.
Two questions. How do you see a direct correlation between the number of times that you put content out there and the visitors? And are you noticing any difference with people using sites from mobile devices?
You get that? I missed the second bit, so one of you guys repeat.
So the second bit was about mobile devices. Are you feeling an impact from mobile devices?
The fact that, putting out more content. So the more content we put out, actually the more relevant, engaging content, the more traffic we get. You know, it's simple from an equation perspective. You look at what we're doing, and it's about, again, that feedback loop of adding value in terms of what we're doing, and then engaging people back in. In terms of mobile, absolutely, it's growing, and we've got data behind all of that in terms of kind of the access, who's looking at what from what devices, and it is changing, and now it's all about being responsive and having responsive websites, and we're really excited we're about to be kind of launching a new version of the site in the next few months, and that's going to see a big change to what we're doing, but it's absolutely important, and you can't underestimate what you need to be doing around mobile, that just everyone in the room is the way that we're consuming. As well, it's interesting as around people saying they've got a digital strategy. We get fed up with brands and agencies talking about this digital. It's about your strategy, and digital being part of that, as opposed to being what's your digital strategy. Maybe a different answer to that question, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
I completely agree. The one thing I would say is that you shouldn't sacrifice quality for quantity. It's sort of a general rule, the more you publish, the more traffic you're going to get for various reasons. But if you're just publishing for the sake of publishing, publishing for the sake of getting traffic, it will end up eroding your brands, eroding the trust of your audience if you're publishing things that are irrelevant and they feel that you're just doing it for the sake of publishing a lot of content. So you do need to strike a balance there and make sure that the content is high quality. And on the mobile question, I completely agree. Very important, growing all the time. I have a mobile app for my blog. I also have a responsive layout on it so that no matter what device you're looking at it on, whether it's a really small phone, a tablet, a laptop, a huge desktop screen, it looks nice in any format. So that's important too, just to make sure that whatever you are publishing online is legible on any type of device.
Yeah, just one thing just about from the app perspective, a lot of people over time, where's your app, and I'm like, you pay for our app. If you think we should have an app, you pay for our app because it's about where does the app add value and what are we doing. And we could just repackage what we've done and put it in that, but actually what we did was we launched an app in January for the first time. You're like, well, we've been going 9 years, how have you just come to the game? But the number of apps that are developed that no one opens, no one shares, no one engages with, and what we did for our app was the Student Beans ID. So it's a student identification card within the app that integrates with all the university systems, and it was featured as one of the best new apps on the App Store and the best app on the App Store. It's been downloaded over 50,000 times since we launched it, and it's going super well. But we took our time with it, and we didn't just come to the game and party going, yeah, here's our app. And I just think I want people just to go, again, where's the value added? Twitter, Facebook, Google+. There are different ways to use it. People consume in different ways, and just being aware of that. And you can put it out potentially more on Twitter because of the way it's consumed, but perhaps less on Facebook, but in different ways that will be relevant for you. I always say as well, like my team, like, oh, we've already done our allocated slots for today, and we're very strategic around what times and when. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're a student and you get something, and then suddenly another brand comes later in the game and it's adding value, and it's not the same, it's like, we can still do that because it's adding value to our users. And we won't, as a user as well, if I get an email, and then 5 minutes later I get another email, but if it's really relevant and it's something very different, then why not I'm open to that, so yeah.
We're a bit of a news wire, so it depends on news flow about how many stories we put out. And I think that point about, you say, I'm going to put out 12 stories a day, and the news stories are there, and so half the stories are rubbish, I think you will piss off your readers, and they'll switch off from you. I think that's what's happened to HuffPo, because HuffPo just repackage everything that happens, every newswire story, they repackage it, and it's too much. You're sort of overwhelmed by all the stories that come out. So you'd rather go somewhere that's a bit more of a filter.
Do you experiment with other types of content other than text, audio, video, and do you see any opportunity in there for your particular brand?
Video.
Yeah, that's been really successful for us because in the legal publishing sphere and legal trademarks, they've been very unambitious with their use of images and video. Video is hard because people often can't be bothered to watch the video, but sometimes they just like the fact that you've embedded the video. So as long as it's not integral to the story that they actually watch it, it's fine. You can describe what's in it. Images, it's great. There's so much stuff you can use. In terms of the law around images, writing a website for lawyers, I should probably know a bit more about it. You can embed a lot of stuff. There's a very good site called Giphy, which has animated GIFs, and you can embed the animated GIFs. You can embed tweets if there's some kind of image from that you can't use, like from Getty Images, which has got a reputation of going after bloggers if they pinch their pics. You can just embed that. When I started, I wasn't using images at all. It's become like the centerpiece of the site. Everyone says you've got great images.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I have found that both images and video are really, really good for my site. Being in the travel industry obviously is a very, very visual industry. I use only my own images, and that's one of the reasons people actually come to my site, because they want to see my photography. It's all original content, which also helps. With video, I think video is a tricky medium because it's very hard to do it right. But if you do a video that's just fun and casual, people care kind of more about the content than about the quality. So it really does depend what you're trying to do with video. I've found that the most effective way to embed video into a website is to make the video the star. So instead of putting a 1,000-word article with a video somewhere in the middle, you put a 10-word article with a video, and there's a clear call to action. This is what you're supposed to do when you come to this article, you watch the video. I get so many more views when I do that than when I embed it in a really, really long post, just because it competes with the text for people's time. So that's actually quite a powerful way to do it. If you're trying to monetize videos, obviously YouTube is a great place. So when I embed videos into my site, I pull them in from YouTube. I also, on YouTube, I'm in their advertiser program, so I earn money from the videos that I have on there. And people can watch them either on the blog or just searching on YouTube. As most people here know, YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world after Google, so you're getting a lot of traffic just from that as well.
We in 2010 had someone working full-time on video, and we'll do it again in this election year in 2015. It's expensive in terms of time and resources. Producing a 5-minute video of reasonable production values, quality, probably takes 2 or 3 days. And we found it difficult to monetize, but it was part of our overall package that we were known for doing on video. We take stuff off the TV quite a lot. Someone says something interesting on the Parliament channel. I know it's not a mass audience, they will take that 15 seconds and stick it up there very fast. And it's got the stage where producers of politics shows and news and current affairs will say, did you see that thing that just happened 5 minutes ago, why don't you put it up? Because it'll get, it's like an iPlayer for politics. If we put it up, it's a funny thing today. So that's quite, it's good for our readers, and they like it a lot, but we haven't figured out how to monetize it. So I'm going to do it all over again. And we've dumped YouTube as our player, because one, we had copyright issues, and so we've got our own player, our own hosted, so come soon if you want to talk about copyright, don't send an email to YouTube. And also we're going to do pre-roll ads and stuff like that, and we're investing in that. It's quite expensive in bandwidth terms. I remember when the Lee Rigby was killed, the soldier was killed in Woolwich, we video recorded something that was on ITV. ITV had it on their website. ITV's website went down because of a traffic surge, and we had ITV's content on our site. I think we had our biggest traffic day, because the only place you could find it for the next hour, if people did want to watch it in a sort of more kind of way, was on our website. So it's great to have video, but it's very hard to do, it's very hard to monetize. I think that's going to change.
Champion of the sweatshirt.
Right, so going back to kind of the revenue streams that you guys have, I mean, you've talked a lot about building up a relevant audience and then monetizing that traffic through either kind of advertising or some form of advertising or affiliate, product sales and stuff. And then you talked about kind of offline opportunities and on the back of that. But as kind of content publishers, how open to you are kind of new revenue models, new money from that content, and how do you find the industry of content publishers, how open are they to new ways to monetize content?
I think in general people are really open. It's still really new. I think a lot of us who've been doing this for a few years keep thinking about, it's been forever. I started this blog forever ago. But when you think of it in the grand scheme of things, this is so new still, and especially from the perspective of monetization, this is incredibly new. It's only been really happening for the last few years on a large scale. And so I think on both sides of the equation, both on the content publisher side and on the advertiser side, everybody's pretty new to it. And the nice thing about that is everybody's pretty open to new ideas. I get approached every day with people who have new ideas of how we can work together to monetize my site or to do a partnership deal. I approach new people all the time with ideas that I have that I pitch to them, and I find them incredibly receptive. A lot of times they say, gosh, we've been wanting to work with bloggers forever, we just don't really know how. So this is a great idea, we love this, we're on board with it. So that's the nice thing right now, we're in a really good place with people actually wanting to work together. And I think over time we'll see things kind of progressing to a point where there are sort of standard ways where people work together, but right now I think it's still wide open.
Yes, it's much easier to sell new stuff. When I started, I was trying to sell banner ads, which was kind of old, and they were ambivalent about it. But then BuzzFeed came along and launched in the UK, and I had this new pitch, and I was like, selling content advertising. And like with BuzzFeed for lawyers, and it was fantastic, transformative. And it's about just keeping ahead, and then if you're selling something new and exciting, people take a chance and they like how it feels rather than selling the old stuff.
It might seem unrelated, but I recently read a book by Clive Woodward, the Indian rugby coach, and it was talking about winning, and in it was talking about change thinking, and about the approach of kind of people thinking about kind of different ideas and coming up with suggestions. And one of the suggestions they had was in the second half of rugby, people, the performance went down in the team. So they thought, what can we do to like almost reset the game, reset the mindset of people? And they decided, they said, let's change our kit. So everyone at half time put on a new kit. So it's a refresh the mind. And people are like, no, we don't have enough time to do it, we can't do it. And it's like, no, we've agreed that we're going to have a change thinking strategy, that we're going to do it. And so they did it, and then they won that game. And then there are a few other global teams now that also changed their kits. And I think the reason why I share it today is again around trying things and just being open to new ideas, and absolutely, but also we've been burned a number of times by trying new things and investing a lot. So a lot now we say, look, if you believe in your product or service and it's really going to work, either you need to pay to do a trial with us, even because we've got such a reach and engagement and opportunity. We've got cost for developing now, so if you really want to make it work, let's do something again from a partnership perspective, but there's got to be something up front, that at least a buy-in or a commitment from you, kind of a bit more. But we're definitely open to trying things, but it's about that balance, I think, of saying yes to everything and being aware of what's maybe a bit too far away from what your core is all about.
The BuzzFeed thing of content marketing or native advertising, it's kind of the online version of advertorials. You remember those supplements you get in the papers from the government of Egypt saying, come on holiday, it's lovely. My advertising company, Hound, we represent 30 websites, including Its Own Home, Labourist, and Live Their Voice. And we have some infrastructure kind of lobby people come along and say, we'd like to do advertorial on these sites. And bizarrely, for enterprise, the Conservative Home site said, no, cheapen our brand. People were confused. They'll think, I was thinking they won't confuse. It's clearly going to be a puff piece for the advertiser. They refused it. Labour said, okay. Live Their Voice said, okay as well. And then half their board resigned because they'd accepted advertising from an infrastructure, non-green advertiser. So in politics, it's a very fraught with difficulties. Will a Conservative website take an advertorial from a union advertiser? Will a left-wing site take something from the Taxpayers Alliance? So, it's very difficult. I personally am all for it because the advertisers love it. They get to see their own words, put their own way. It works very well with Google because with the searching, these are high-traffic, highly ranked sites. I hope it gets acceptable. I don't think, after a while, the readers will worry about it too much. As long as it's clearly delineated that that's sponsored, that's not the original content from the original editors, it's different from advertising. It will work great, and it pays bloody well.
Final question from anyone in the audience? Yeah, lady with pen in the air.
Oh, hi. So if you're starting out as a new blogger today, which social network would you say is the easiest to stand out at? Because I understand that Facebook's really difficult to make any mark in, particularly now. So which would you say would be the easiest to actually get some sort of traffic from?
What I always tell people is the one where your audience is. With social media, as with anything, you're not going to make any traction ever if your audience isn't where you are. And I know that's sometimes hard to gauge and hard to know, but if you ask your readers, ask your sort of target market, where do you spend time online? Is it Google+, is it Facebook, is it Twitter, is it Snapchat? You might be surprised to learn where people are spending their time. If people are kind of spreading it across everything, all your readers are kind of all over the place, I would look into what kind of where you already are established. If you have profiles on any sites already, if you can sort of turn those into the profile that you can use for your site. or where you can make the most partnerships. Do you already know people who are quite big on Twitter, who are have a quite big following on Facebook, who might be willing to share links to your site, links to your Twitter handle, links to your Facebook page, and encourage their readers to come over and like your page too. It's very difficult now to sort of get started from zero, so the more help you can give yourself to kind of get that leg up and leverage any context you have, the better you're going to do.
Yeah, it is hard getting started from nothing on Twitter, but there's one good trick, is the parody accounts. They're easier to get going than normal accounts, and then you can retweet yourself. So, you know, you need to think creatively. The other thing is, I just have a sense of Twitter just fading a bit. So much new stuff has come through. It's still totally worth doing, but we just noticed, you know, Facebook, it seems to be making a little bit of a comeback in terms of it as a kind of news platform. So it's worth persevering with Facebook.
I'd add as well, I think, you know, it's about starting. If you're restricted for time, then you might think you need to choose one, but I think it's all about where are people consuming, where can you add value, and let people consume in their own way. And then some people won't want to receive your emails, and they just won't. If you start sending them, they'll unsubscribe. You're like, okay, so what platform should I use? And I think it is about trialing and testing and putting something out. We've been involved in something called Kentish Cluster, which is based in Kentish Town, and I launched with a few founding companies. There's Mumsnet up there, there's us, there's a company called Softwire and MVF Global, and we get Taxi and a whole host of like tech startup stuff up there. And we launched Twitter, we've got over 100 followers already, there's engagement, it's relevant, and again, I just think it's about if you can add value, but try and test, and don't rule something out. So I know there'd be Snapchat, or there's kind of other new networks as well that are coming out that you can just kind of build and start, and then if you're finding, you know, what return are you getting, and what are your objectives, just like an app, why launch an app if it's not adding value, but it's on. I would try variety, and then stick with the one that works.
Final word.
I used to hate Twitter, and now I've got 126,000 followers on Twitter. I think it's an excellent medium. And I didn't really get Twitter in the beginning until I got on my phone, so there you go. I found that the way to get traffic on Twitter is to break super injunctions, and you get lots of followers, like, you know, 10,000 a day, and it's kind of risky, but fun.
Great, I will better wrap it up, but these guys will be around hopefully for a little while to chat to them and everyone else. Which meant to be out here like at the latest at 8:45, so if anyone wants to hang around any longer, then I'll be there anyway, but a few of us will go to the Fox pub, which is literally turn right out of Google Campus, then left at the end, and you can't miss it. Yeah, also all the beer bottles and all the rubbish and everything, please just put it all in the bins at the back. But anyway, thanks very much to the sponsors, and also our great panellists. So